The groom stood at the altar completely still, the kind of stillness that makes an entire room hold its breath. His hands weren't shaking, but something in the way he stared into the crowd told everyone that this moment had shifted from a celebration to something no one could yet understand. The bride, standing just a few feet away, kept her smile frozen as if she was trying to convince herself that everything was fine, even though the color in her face had already begun to fade. Guests leaned toward one another in small whispers, sensing tension but unsure of its cause. Then he turned slowly toward the giant screen behind him, cleared his throat, and said in a low, steady voice that silenced the entire hall, "Before I marry you, everyone needs to see the truth." Gasps scattered through the room as he pressed play, and a video began to load, its first frame hidden from the guests, yet enough to send a wave of fear across the bride's face. And as the screen brightened, the room felt heavier, as though everyone could sense that whatever was about to be shown would change the day forever. The narrator's voice sets in. 5 minutes before saying "I do," he uncovered the truth that would destroy the wedding and expose a betrayal so deep it forced him to turn the ceremony into a calculated revenge. The whispers stopped. Even the bride didn't blink. Her eyes locked on the screen as if she already knew what was coming and prayed the video wouldn't play. But it did. And the open question lingered in the air like a weight no one knew how to carry. But how did it come to this? And what exactly was in that video? Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And if you're new here, click on the subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Ethan had always been the kind of man people relied on. The kind who kept his promises even when no one was watching. Raised in a home where trust mattered more than anything, he carried that same belief into adulthood. Madison, the woman he was about to marry, seemed to be everything he ever wanted. Charming, admired, the type of person people noticed the moment she walked into a room. Their families admired the match, and their friends often joked that Ethan had found his perfect partner. But as the wedding day drew closer, the small moments began to shift. Madison's maid of honor, Olivia, avoided eye contact every time Ethan walked into the room. Tyler, Ethan's best man, tried to keep everyone's spirits high, unaware of the discomfort growing beneath the surface. And Ethan's sister, sharp and observant, pulled him aside more than once to say softly, "She's hiding something. You deserve the truth." The venue itself seemed to reflect everything Ethan had invested into the relationship. A luxury coastal setting, carefully curated, glowing with the kind of beauty that only comes from meticulous planning and a great deal of money. Ethan had paid for most of it, wanting Madison to feel cherished. He even bought her a dream house earlier that year, a place she said made her feel secure. His business schedule had been rearranged, contracts delayed, meetings moved. Also, he could be fully present for the wedding. Every decision he made came from love, but beneath that, there was also a quiet fear, a feeling he pushed aside because he wanted the marriage to begin with trust. Yet Madison had been distracted for weeks, often distant, often lost in thoughts she never shared. And while Ethan tried to dismiss the worry, something in his chest kept tightening each time he caught her looking away. Olivia's silence became another piece of the puzzle he didn't know how to assemble. She seemed uncomfortable around him, always offering a quick smile before stepping away, as if she couldn't stand being in the same space for too long. Ethan didn't want to assume anything, but the pattern grew too consistent to ignore. Even Madison's mother, always focused on image and perfection, seemed strangely tense whenever Ethan walked in, her comments shorter, her eyes shifting as if guarding a secret she hoped would never surface. Meanwhile, Ethan's sister continued to watch everything, noticing details he didn't have the heart to confront. She told him one evening, in a voice low and careful, that trusting someone didn't mean ignoring the truth. Those words stayed with him, echoing louder each time he replayed the past few weeks in his mind. He sensed something was off, but he still loved Madison deeply, and the thought of betrayal felt unbearable. All the stakes rested on Ethan's shoulders in ways most people in the room didn't understand. His entire family had traveled across the country to witness his vows. His reputation, his finances, and the future he imagined were tied to this moment. He wanted to believe in Madison completely, to trust that her distance was just stress, nothing more. But small signs kept stacking up. creating a quiet pressure around him that he pretended not to feel. Every time Madison smiled, a part of him tried to accept it as reassurance, yet another part whispered that something wasn't being said. Then came the moment that would change everything, subtle, easy to overlook, but powerful enough to plant doubt that refused to fade. And the narrator returns. But this was only the beginning. And within days, Ethan would learn the first clue. It started subtly, almost innocuously, like a shadow passing across a sunlit room. Ethan noticed Madison's phone light flicker in the darkness of their bedroom at 2 a.m. At first, he told himself it was nothing, just work messages, perhaps. But when she quickly hid her screen as soon as he entered the room, a small unease settled in his chest. She claimed it was work stress, a looming project keeping her awake. Yet the way her lips curved as she read the texts, the fleeting spark of excitement in her eyes, was unlike anything Ethan had seen before. He wanted to trust her, and for the sake of peace, he let it go, burying the moment in the back of his mind. But deep down, a quiet voice whispered that something about those messages didn't add up, and that whisper would not be silenced for long. But those messages weren't from who she claimed, and very soon, Ethan would see the proof. A few nights later, during an intimate dinner, Ethan noticed Madison step outside, phone pressed tightly to her ear. He followed under the guise of grabbing something from the kitchen, but curiosity gripped him in a way he couldn't ignore. From the doorway, he heard her whisper, almost too softly to understand, "He can't find out. Not yet." The words landed in his chest like stones he couldn't shake off. By the time she hung up, Ethan had no answers, only questions gnawing at him. When he asked who it had been, she gave the same line about the wedding coordinator, her voice calm, rehearsed. But over the following days, Ethan would uncover a truth that shook that explanation to its core. The coordinator would later insist she had never received or made such a call. The lie, or omission, planted a seed that began to grow, small at first, then insistent, pushing Ethan into a path he hadn't imagined walking. Then there was the bracelet. A simple gift Ethan had chosen months before, a piece that he thought reflected their connection, a token of shared memories and promises. For a while, Madison wore it daily, but one morning, it was gone. She laughed it off, saying she had misplaced it, but Ethan remembered the exact spot where she always kept it. His heart tensed. Something in the way she spoke, casual yet slightly evasive, made him pause. Weeks later, his sister stumbled upon the bracelet in a place that made no sense, hidden among a collection of items that held no relevance to the couple. The discovery didn't just confuse him, it unsettled him in a way that made him question everything he had taken for granted. And it was this bracelet, this small object that once symbolized trust, that became the first tangible clue forcing Ethan to investigate further. And this discovery would push Ethan to investigate further. The first concrete clue came from a place Ethan never expected, his own shared credit card statements. As he sifted through charges for what should have been routine expenses, something caught his eye. Hotel stays he had no knowledge of, dinners in expensive restaurants, Uber rides that didn't match their usual routines. Each transaction was small enough to be dismissed individually, but together, they formed a pattern impossible to ignore. When he asked Madison about them, her explanations faltered, the casual tone she tried to maintain cracking under the weight of the evidence. The tension between them became almost physical, a quiet storm growing louder with every evasive answer. Ethan felt a cold knot of fear in his chest, realizing that the distance he had sensed for weeks wasn't imagined, it was real. But the next discovery wouldn't just hurt him, it would break him. The warning came from someone he trusted, someone who had known him since childhood. Tyler, his best man, pulled him aside one evening, away from the chatter of the wedding preparations. Tyler's voice was low, hesitant, tinged with worry he couldn't ignore. He had overheard Olivia crying quietly, a moment meant to be private, but impossible to miss. Through her tears, she had whispered a sentence Ethan couldn't forget. Madison is making a huge mistake. When Ethan asked Olivia herself, she panicked, denying anything, her eyes darting as if afraid the truth would escape before she could stop it. That single moment confirmed his suspicions. Something was wrong, something far beyond missed texts or misplaced bracelets. And yet, the pieces still didn't make a complete picture. And Olivia was hiding something that could destroy the wedding. Then came the message that turned uncertainty into dread. It arrived the night before the rehearsal from an anonymous sender, subject lines stark and urgent. You deserve the truth. Ethan's hands shook slightly as he opened it, expecting maybe a prank, but what he found stopped him cold. Attached was a photograph, blurred and indistinct, but enough to make his stomach churn. A single sentence accompanied it. She's not who you think she is. No name, no explanation, just a warning that tore through every assumption he had about the woman he was about to marry. For a moment, he considered ignoring it, telling himself that maybe it was coincidence or exaggeration. But instinct refused to let him dismiss it so easily. Every instinct, every hint of unease from the past weeks, converged in that moment, signaling that the sender was only the beginning. He ignores it, but the sender wasn't finished. The rehearsal dinner, meant to be a moment of celebration, quickly became a stage for tension Ethan couldn't ignore. Madison sat across the table, distant, her smile polite but hollow, the energy between them taut and fragile. Olivia, usually composed, hovered nearby, her eyes betraying a near breaking point as if she carried a secret too heavy to hold. Ethan noticed Madison's phone light flicker under the table, a brief glow that revealed a message preview. I miss you. Tonight. His chest tightened, the air in the room suddenly thick, suffocating. Without a word, he excused himself, leaving the laughter and music behind, the warmth of the gathering replaced by a cold, gnawing suspicion. Tyler followed silently, sensing the storm inside his friend, offering quiet support without judgment. The thought that kept repeating in Ethan's mind was simple and chilling. What was happening right now that he couldn't see? What Ethan didn't know was that Madison had already made her move. Later, in the privacy of a dimly lit hallway, Olivia finally allowed herself to speak. Her voice was low, trembling, as though saying the words aloud could put her in danger. I can't tell you, but I wish you knew the truth, she whispered, barely audible. Fear radiated from her in waves, a mix of loyalty, guilt, and the palpable weight of someone being forced into silence. Ethan could see that she wanted to protect him, but something, or someone, had demanded her secrecy. Her eyes darted nervously, her hands clenching and unclenching as she struggled to maintain composure. The moment was heavy, suffused with urgency, the kind of intensity that doesn't fade with time. And Ethan realized that Olivia wasn't just hiding information. She was being controlled in a way he hadn't anticipated. And Ethan would soon find out who. Driven by unease and a sense that every unanswered question could spell disaster, Ethan found himself alone later that evening, examining Madison's tablet while she was momentarily distracted. His fingers hesitated over the screen, the act of snooping feeling both wrong and necessary. What he found was subtle at first, deleted message fragments that hinted at conversations he wasn't meant to see. Then came the photos, snapshots with a man he didn't recognize, captured in moments that seemed intimate, casual, impossible to dismiss. A hidden folder caught his attention, labeled work stuff. It seemed innocuous, until he opened it and discovered receipts from a hotel suite, dates overlapping with the nights he had assumed they spent together. Each revelation compounded the previous, layering shock on disbelief, fear on betrayal. Every corner of trust he had built in the relationship was suddenly exposed to doubt. But nothing could prepare him for what he would find next. Ethan stared at the screen, heart hammering, as the final, undelete photo came into full view. The man he had assumed was just another stranger. The one Madison had been hiding in the hotel pictures was unmistakably familiar. It wasn't a coworker, not a friend, not someone from a business meeting. It was the officiant, the pastor hired to perform their wedding, a man Ethan had trusted to oversee the most sacred moment of his life. The realization hit him like a cold wave, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. Questions raced through his mind faster than he could process. How long had this been going on? How many layers of lies had been hidden behind Madison's perfect smile? And most importantly, why would someone so close to him orchestrate a betrayal so personal? But Ethan still didn't know the whole truth. Not yet. The evidence began to solidify into something undeniable. Hotel records showed multiple visits, payments traced under the officiant's name, each entry marking nights Ethan had assumed they shared together. Olivia, overwhelmed by guilt and fear, finally broke down, tears streaking her face as she whispered, "Madison said she couldn't call it off. Not with all the money you spent." The combination of financial deception and emotional betrayal felt like a calculated punch, the kind that leaves a mark far deeper than any visible wound. Ethan's mind raced, piecing together the nights he had spent waiting, trusting, loving, now revealing themselves as part of a meticulously planned charade. But even as anger and heartbreak consumed him, another layer of understanding began to emerge. The affair itself, shocking as it was, wasn't the ultimate betrayal. There was something far more sinister beneath the surface. And the worst part? The affair wasn't what truly broke Ethan. The full scope of the deception crashed down on him all at once. Madison hadn't just been unfaithful. She had been manipulating every aspect of his life for months. She was using him financially, orchestrating a plan to divorce him within months while claiming assets that Ethan had worked a lifetime to build. The officiant wasn't just a participant. He was a co-conspirator, fully aware of the scheme. Olivia had been threatened to maintain silence, and even Madison's mother, so focused on appearances, had known the plan all along. The wedding, every ceremony, every smile Madison had given him, was a meticulously staged trap. Each revelation compounded the betrayal, and for the first time, Ethan's grief shifted towards something darker, more focused. In that moment, the narrative of victimhood ended. And this is where Ethan stopped being the victim and started planning revenge. After uncovering the betrayal, Ethan didn't react with anger or confrontation. Instead, he transformed quietly, meticulously, like a man walking through fire without burning. He acted loving, gentle, supportive, every gesture, every word carefully measured so Madison would believe she had won. She remained unaware of the storm building beneath the surface, convinced that her deception had gone undetected. Meanwhile, Ethan worked in the shadows. He gathered proof, collecting messages, receipts, and photos that corroborated the extent of her betrayal. He consulted a lawyer discreetly, ensuring every legal step was airtight. Tyler and his sister became his silent allies, offering guidance, keeping watch, and helping piece together a puzzle that had been deliberately hidden from him. Every move he made was deliberate, a careful balance of patience and preparation. He wasn't seeking revenge through violence or confrontation. His plan was far more cunning, calculated, and psychologically precise. But Ethan's revenge wasn't violent. It was genius. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, Ethan constructed a plan that was equal parts meticulous and dramatic. He edited footage, compiled screenshots, and secretly interviewed Olivia, capturing her testimony with care and sensitivity. He coordinated with venue staff, ensuring every moment of the reveal would unfold exactly as intended. Each step was timed, rehearsed, and layered, from the placement of hidden cameras to the subtle cues in his speech that would guide the audience's attention. Every interaction with Madison remained flawless on the surface, masking the storm of truth he was ready to unleash. He visualized the moment of exposure, anticipating her shock, the guests' reactions, and the satisfaction of revealing the betrayal without a single misstep. Every detail mattered: timing, tone, sequence. By the time the day arrived, Ethan's patience, strategy, and careful planning had converged into a perfect crescendo. And then, the wedding day arrived. The day had arrived. Madison moved through the room with a bright, practiced excitement, her laughter light and effortless, as though nothing could touch her carefully constructed world. Guests mingled cheerfully, unaware that the tension beneath the surface was about to shatter the illusion of normalcy. Ethan remained calm, serene even, his movements deliberate, a quiet contrast to the storm raging inside him. Every smile he offered was measured, every gesture masking the precision of the plan he had spent weeks perfecting. The pastor, the man entwined in the betrayal, shifted nervously, sensing the tension in a way he couldn't quite name. Ethan's family exchanged glances, sharp and questioning, catching fragments of unease in his eyes, while Olivia stood pale and trembling, guilt and fear etched into every line of her face. No one in the room could anticipate the moment that would follow, the calculated reveal that would lay bare every hidden truth. No one expected what Ethan was about to do. Ethan raised his voice, calm, measured, each word slicing through the nervous chatter of the crowd. Before we continue, I want to honor my bride and show everyone how much she means to me. The words hung in the air, charged with a tension that made every guest shift in their seats. Then, with a subtle motion, he cued the screen behind him. The video began to play, each frame more damning than the last. There was Madison and the officiant at the hotel. Their smiles intimate, the betrayal undeniable. Audio clips of phone conversations, fragments of deleted messages, Olivia's tearful confession, evidence of the financial scheme. Everything unfolded in front of everyone. Madison's composure shattered, her laughter replaced by sobs, her pleas lost in the weight of truth. The officiant bolted, realizing his role in the deceit had been exposed. And through it all, Ethan remained calm, almost serene. I deserved honesty, and you will never get another chance to betray me. The guests, stunned, erupted into applause, not for a wedding, but for justice finally served. The room had emptied, leaving behind only the echoes of stunned gasps and whispered conversations. Ethan walked away from the altar with a quiet dignity, a calm that contrasted sharply with the chaos that had unfolded moments before. His family gathered around him, embracing him tightly, their support grounding him in a moment that had threatened to unmoor everything he believed in. Olivia approached cautiously, eyes red from tears, murmuring apologies that he acknowledged with a simple nod, a gesture that carried more forgiveness than resentment. Tyler stayed close, offering reassurance with a quiet presence that needed no words. Ethan didn't leave seeking revenge anymore. He left with something far more powerful: closure, clarity, and the knowledge that truth had finally been revealed. And as the doors closed behind him, the story lingered, a question for everyone listening. What would you have done in Ethan's place? Do you think he went too far, or not far enough? Should Madison face legal consequences? If this story hit you like it did us, hit that like button. It truly helps the channel grow. And subscribe if you want more gripping stories every day, where truth, betrayal, and justice collide in ways that leave you questioning everything you thought you knew.